here I am in my homemade hammock, hanging out in the park down near where I live, trying out a few different hangs, different tree diameters and distances apart, putting on the underquilt, kind of trial run before I hit the trail. Anyway, I guess I better get out and give you a look at the hammock. Okay, here's the hammock. Right now, just the underquilt. I've got it hanging with a webbing around the tree. I don't have the whoopee on it, whoopee slings. So you can see here I have the webbing going around the tree, attached with a soft shackle, carabiner-like device. And that carries down to where I have a continuous loop connected to my hammock continuous loop. This particular loop has the button knot in it, and that is used to soft shackle type connection of this loop, which has the Beckett hitch to connect the webbing to the hammock. Ultimately, I should be able to just pull this and disconnect the slippery half hitch, I believe it's called. But when you get a little bit of weight on here, you have to kind of wiggle this a bit in order to loosen it up. I'm also replacing the webbing, nylon webbing I have here with the Dyneema webbing that I'm getting from a fellow on YouTube. I believe his name is Greg Evans, if I'm not mistaken. And I'll be picking that up at the post office near North Springer Station in Atlanta. I'll be bringing these just in case something happens on the delivery. You never know. This toggle and elastic cord is the suspension for my underquilt, and I just stick it in through here, and of course when the tension's there, that toggle is not going to fall through the loop. Also have my ridge line, which is one on the other end. I have a variable loop in it, so I can tighten it or loosen it if I desire. I also have a couple of these carabiners with the prusik knots, so that I can take the cord from the underquilt and hook it in here if I want to alter the geometry a little bit to pull it up tighter to my body. I have this ridgeline organizer, one big pocket on one side, two smaller pockets on the other. I haven't isn't anything special other than I just have a foot box with an elastic draw cord in here to help keep my quilt from falling over on the feet end. I experienced that a few times when I was trying this in my garage, and then my feet would get cold. Anyway, this prevents the quilt from actually flopping out. And the quilt itself, homemade, it is a 3/4 length with deck down, a waterproof kind, so that if it does get a little bit wet, it's not going to be that big of a problem. Not as big a problem as it could be. Again, I have another prusik with the S-beaner here to hook up this to pull it up tighter if I need to. Here's the end of where the berry and the pull for the ridge line, the loop here. And we'll just go up the other side. Got the suspension for the underquilt, the continuous loop, onto the webbing, and then back onto the tree with the soft shackle. In these two bags I have whoopee slings. They are, I believe, 6 feet. Can extend my hammock reach to different trees if I need to. Here's the hammock with the tarp pulled over top of it. Typically that would be up first, and then potentially unraveled so that I can set up the hammock underneath it in the dry. Or I can hang this like that if I think it might rain or could rain, and that way I can get up and set up the tarp if I need to all of a sudden. It's just connected with some light guy wire to a, I think they call these figure 9s if I'm not mistaken, or figure 4, hard to remember. And on top of the tarp, focus on it here, is a sleeve right here. I just have to pull it and unfurl the tarp. Combination of silk nylon, same type that the tarp is made of, and some netting, which I had to add to make it a little bit wider and allow it to breathe a little bit. Okay, there we are out. You see it's about 12 feet long, so it's a little bit longer than many. I think typically you'd have anywhere from 8 to 10 feet, but I wanted extra length so that I could tuck the two lower right and lower left corners kind of pulling toward each other after it's been strung out to kind of create a door if I needed to. And I'll stake it out and give you an idea of what it would look like. And here we are fully fleshed out with the tarp. I don't have the cords really tight, but there are extra cord lengths that I can use on these other tie-outs that are along the way here. There are 3 of them. That way I can move the tie-out from there, put it over here, and then use this triangle that would go from here to the tip and fold it in and partially close out the end of the tarp to protect from really bad wind maybe coming from the end, since I may not be able to pick the trees I really want to use. And let's see, underneath here I've sewn in pockets so that I can put the cord into there. I also have pretty long cords on here right now. They're doubled up as it is, and to use this cord lock I will shorten those as I need to on the trail when I find out what it's really going to be like. Up here, of course, where the rain may be coming down here, and underneath the tarp on the suspension, this cord will act like a rain catch that might, or water that might be flowing along the webbing and fall to the ground rather than continuing on and wetting out the tent or the hammock. And what's under here, it's very much like a tent, except that I'm getting into the hammock here. Hopefully things won't fall. Okay, I'm in the hammock, and sorry, there's a fair amount of room in here, and although there's not maybe much of a view at the moment, as I said, I can take the cord from the end, attach it to that one, use a trekking pole to lift that and kind of bring me into what I call porch mode, and then I would have a view off one side or the other. And as I said, that cord would be used to tie to that end's cord and in essence create a door or a semi-door at that end. Otherwise, there's no seam in the roof. I bought extra wide material, and it's toward the bottom where the seam is to actually extend it. I figured if there was going to be a leak, it'd be better that it was away from the hammock and I didn't have to worry about it. One other great thing about having a tarp with a hammock is that I could potentially unhook my hammock at that end and lay it down onto a ground cloth that I would typically have below me with all my things. And there's plenty of room here to have my propane stove or alcohol stove and not have to worry about catching anything on fire. And it'd be completely undercover, and there'd be a lot of ventilation. Plus, I could potentially even lower the tarp to go almost to the ground on one side if there was really driving rain. I have to try a taut pitch to see what this is really going to be like, because if it's windy, that tarp is going to be fluttering a lot the way it is now. So I may have to use these tie-outs with other spare cord I have to give it extra strength. I did try to do a bit of a, what do you call it, cat cut between one end and the other, but it's not a lot, and I probably didn't do enough, and this seam here also caused it to tension in a way that might not be normally used if I'd put the seam at the very top. So live and learn, I guess. So from this angle you can see the cutillery cut, or cat cut, that I put into the side of the tarp. It's probably 8 inches or 9 inches, I think. I did use an online calculator to figure out what it ought to be, but again, if I was to pull on this cord, which has a shot cord here on this part to give it a little bit of a give with the wind, I might remove that as well, and the lark said onto there, so I can get rid of that and move that up to there if I need to. Anyway, when I put a little more pole in here, you can see how the seam is being pulled that way, and so it'll never be completely flat, I think, but it'll be waterproof. So what I did there was just tear down the tarp. Typically the hammock would go first and everything would be packed up underneath the tarp, put in a bag, ready to go if it was raining. And then the tarp would be the last thing to go off the tree and into the back mesh of my backpack, and keeping everything as dry as possible. Although, as they say, nothing is ever really dry on the Appalachian Trail, from what I hear. So from this point on, I'm going to just take down the tarp and the hammock, and I'm going to try to set up on another tree or two before I call it a day and head back home, which is a 10-minute walk from here. One more thing I did want to mention is this bag on the end of my hammock. This actually holds the hammock in there. It is double-ended, so I can pull out either end, and I can get the whole hammock in there and the whoopee slings, and it comes off quite nice. There's a guy on YouTube, Sean Emery, also known as Shug Woo Betty, who has this type of thing on his hammock, and I really loved the idea of it, and it works really quite well. So here I'm in the backyard, and I've set up the hammock tarp with the doors closed. You can see from that angle, if we get more parallel, you can see how they really cut in. Walk up to the door here and give you a look at that. So ultimately, right now they're just hooked together with a little soft shackle, but I'll have something else, I think, in mind when I do it ultimately. And you can see at the other end, the doors will be closed about half that opening. If I do it the way I want to, which is to rig the tie-outs to go from where they are now, just touching one another, out to the corners. So this one, for example, would go from here and clip on here somewhere. That would really close it up. So you see, it was quite steep an angle. And it would be more like a tent body without a floor. Okay, here it is with the doors folded back. You see there, two of them are connected by the bungee cord, and there's a S-biner here, which ultimately would be unhooked. An opposite door would be hooked on here. And yeah, it folds pretty flat. I swapped out my tie-out for my tarp, rather than using the old-fashioned kind of toggle that you use to add tension. I've taken another idea from Greg Evans, where, well, although he didn't exactly have his shot cord like this on the end of the hammock, he did have a continuous loop with the button knot, and then on the cord that is actually tied to the ground, you have a prusik knot with a loop, and you've connected to the button knot by going up through the loop and then over the button knot, and that is tight enough. And then the prusik knot, to loosen it or tighten it, well, I can't tighten it with one hand, but I can loosen it by just going like that. But this, well, it is here, unfortunately, but it should not be able to pull there. Well, a little bit of a give. It should not be able to pull away and maintain stiffness in the cord.